All right, good evening. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the Blossom Ladies Network. Lovely to see you today and have you join us. We will be discussing overcoming imposter syndrome today. And I have my brother with me, a coach, mentor to people, author, Lamide Johnson, and he'll be joining me very shortly as we discuss overcoming imposter syndrome. If you're comfortable turning on your camera, that would be great as well. But if not, that's okay. You know, no pressure at all. No pressure at all. Lovely to see some people all the way from Helsinki. Hello. Oh, God bless you. God bless you. Hello, Lamide. Lovely to have you with us. Let me add spotlights. Yes, wonderful.
Great. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Absolutely can hear you. Yes. We will just dive right into it. Now, remember, ask questions, just ask. If you have any questions, please just ask and we will, begin. Now, I think the best thing, let's start. How would you describe imposter syndrome? And let me say, for those that are like, oh, introduce him. I asked him, I said, how do you want me to introduce you? He was like, why are you doing this? Like, I said, okay, I will introduce you this way. This is Lamide Johnson. He's my brother. He's my runaway friend, but but he's here with us today. So welcome to the Blossom Ladies Network. And incidentally, Lamide was instrumental in setting up the Blossom Ladies Network. So he's a cool part of why we're here, how we got here, and one day we'll tell the story. So one day we'll tell, not today, but one day.
Not today. It's not for today.
No, it's not. Okay, so let's dive in. How would you describe imposter syndrome? Let's just start from there and then we'll move on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Pastor Genevieve. So first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me here today. So exciting to be here speaking to your community. Every time I see what you do at Blossom's Ladies Network, I'm so proud, like incredibly proud of you and the work you're doing. And again, thank you to everyone who is here today, every lady here today who has permitted a young man like myself to speak to you. It's a huge honor to be here today. Completely honored to be here today. We're gonna have a conversation today, and Genevieve was asking me, how would you introduce yourself? And I'm like, no, don't introduce me with those big titles. I was at a session 3 weeks back, and the lady tried to introduce me. I don't know where she got the profile from, and I was so embarrassed when she kept on going and going. I was like, oh my God, I don't want any of that to happen today. And so one of the reasons why I told her not to introduce me is because of the fear of imposter syndrome too. Right. And I just wanted to say it there and put it out there first that everybody has gone through imposter syndrome one way or the other. In fact, myself and Genevieve has gone through several bouts of imposter syndromes. One of the reasons why Genevieve struggled with setting this up was because of imposter syndrome. She's just feeling, should I not? What would they say? What would they do? How can we not? And so that's what imposter syndrome is about. You doubt yourself, lots of self-doubt. You do something and you don't think it's you that's done it. You question every single thing, or more importantly, and this is my best definition of imposter syndrome, it is when you think that your successes are a fluke. I'm going to say that again. When you think that your successes are a fluke, it means that you stumbled upon the success, right? You were in luck that one time. It just happened per chance. It was not you that did it. If X was not there or if Y was not there, you don't think you would have been able to achieve that feat. And when you constantly think yourself a fluke, or when successes come your way and you think it's a fluke, then that is imposter syndrome. And every single person battles imposter syndrome. But then today we're going to talk about how, why, who has gone through it before, and perhaps what can we do? What simple tips can we take on to ensure that we get past it?
Thank you for that. And very, very true. Very true. Like I said, the day we will tell the story, it's going to be a series, because we need part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of how this whole thing, and not just this one, because there's also another network that, anyway, not today. Now, okay. Let's start. What are some of the common triggers that you would say are very common across people for imposter syndrome? How do you recognize that you started feeling this way? You started mentioning it, but can you give us an example, maybe from work, from the things you've done? I really wish you allowed me to introduce you. Let me tell them the things you've done, but that's okay. Go and Google for yourself, and then you find. So what are some of the things and some examples that has come up in your own life?
There's several ways you can know that you've got imposter syndromes, and maybe I'll just highlight 3 things. First, someone says thank you and you deflect. Like, you deflect completely. You do something like, oh my God, that's amazing, Lamide. I like how you speak. I like how you write. I think this proposal is brilliant, Lamide. Or it's great for you to get selected by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as one of the goalkeepers from Africa. That's huge, right? How did you come about it? Like, no, I don't know how it happened. Just luck. We just thank God. We give God all the glory, right? We just thank God for it. It's God that did it. We are grateful to Him. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't display that level of humility or humility as you'd were, but I'm saying that when you deflect thanks, when you deflect gratitude, that is a sign of imposter syndrome, right? Some of us hide behind the cape of humility, but that's not what it is, right? Because you did something, you should definitely savor that moment. That's imposter. The second way I see imposter is when you don't believe you can rinse and repeat. And I'm going to say this because when I was posting this event on social media, am I speaking too fast? Should I slow down? No, it's not you I'm talking to, Genevieve. I'm talking to the audience. Please just comment, put it in the comment section. Am I speaking too fast, or I should slow down? Right? And if you're following me, just type there, I'm following you, Lamide. Just go on. All right. It's not Genevieve. Genevieve knows how I speak. So fire on. Fantastic. Oh, somebody said I should slow down. So Colette, I will slow down a little bit. Okay. Okay, carry on. Oh.
I was like, oh,
my wife is here. I'm like, who is calling me baby? Okay, so when I posted these events on Instagram 2 days ago, I think it was 2 days ago I posted it. I spoke about to rinse and repeat, and it means, look, you've done something before, you can do it again. But when you have the fear that you can't do it again, that is an imposter. That is an imposter. So, for instance, you have prophesied before, and then you get into a new environment, and you are watching your words. You're doubting if the Holy Spirit is speaking to you or through you, and you refuse to release that word. Right? You say you can't do it again. It's done before. You can't do it again. That's an imposter. Okay, perhaps you have been able to set up a business and you were able to achieve it so good, right? And then you worry that that was just one chance, right? At that time, the government was right. We had great economy. The dollar was not that expensive. The pound sterling was not that bad. We just give several reasons, and that you can't do it again. Right, so you don't think you can rinse and repeat. And let me explain what rinse and repeat means. For instance, I'm coming to this session to have this conversation. Or okay, when Genevieve told me about this about 2 months ago, I told her a date that was far away, right? Because I don't want to come and speak. To be honest, I don't want to come speak. I'm in a season of hiding, so very few people can bring me out, right? And Genevieve is one of those people who can bring me out. Now, when she told me I give it 2 months away, but now I have to prepare for this session. My way of preparing for such sessions is to do lots of research. Okay, so I do lots of research. I do lots of reading. Then I find instances in my personal life where I've experienced some of the things and the points I'm saying. Okay, and then I tailor it to my audience. So I'm speaking to ladies. So what would be beneficial to the audience I'm speaking to? Okay, then I find biblical principles, because I'm a Christian and I so much believe in biblical principles. Anytime I have to speak, there has to be a story from the Bible that I'm going to share. And then to get a biblical principle, I have to meditate and stay in the presence of the Holy Spirit and ask him, who am I going to speak about this time, right? Who are you highlighting? And then he doesn't speak to me like, like Genevieve's level. She's on that level. My own level is different, right? He speaks through different means, right? He could speak through a book, through a podcast I'm listening to, or through nature, right? So I just hear a name and it just sinks in my spirit, and I go do a research and I find, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. And then I find a way to relate that instance in the Bible to our present life, right? So that I'm not speaking in King James version language where you won't understand what I'm saying. Now, that is my process of speaking. That is what I have to go through to deliver. Now, any single time I have to speak to any audience, I simply rinse and repeat. I simply rinse and repeat. So I don't go into any conversation with anybody. I don't go into any speaking engagement scared. I don't go into this engagement thinking that somebody is not going to learn something, right? Because when I come speak to an audience like this, for instance, today we have 23 people on the call. I'm speaking to just one person here today. And that's all I do. This is my style. Now, the thing is, when you do not believe that you can go through the process of rinsing and repeating, then that is imposter syndrome. That is imposter syndrome. The last thing is pure fear. Pure fear. And this is so interesting because the fear is being manufactured, and is manufactured in our minds, completely manufactured in our minds. Okay, for ladies who perhaps are trying to switch up in their career and look for fantastic jobs, they do not believe they can earn a certain capacity, so they put themselves within a certain limit and believe that that's all they can do and that is all they can deliver on. For some women, for some ladies, for instance, you get into a role, or you're promoted into a role. For instance, maybe now you have to do certain things around tech in your company. Tech is high paying, but you are scared that you cannot deliver on it. You fear that you will not be able to meet up. And this fear is real because sometimes our male counterparts in our organizations seems to be more outspoken, seem to be more confident, and seem to be more bold. Okay, when they speak with so much authority. You wouldn't know that what is in their mind is just chaff, right? You're smarter, you are more brilliant than they are, but because you have no capacity to let your voice speak for you, you allow yourself to be overcome by fear. Over the weekend, I was in retreat with a friend, and his wife came to join us. And while she came to join us, things switched up for us because we're sleeping in tents. It was really interesting, in the open. It was a 72-hour worship session. It's called rather David's tent. Now, we guys were just hustling our way through tents, right? Like hustling our way through tents, just doing anything we thought we could do. But the moment his wife came, things changed. For instance, we had breakfast, which we hadn't had. We were just fasting because we felt, what are we going to eat? And yesterday, while we're packing up our tent, my friend's wife was able to think of 1,222 things at the same time. Like the way she was coordinating how we were setting down the tent and managing multiple things. She asked her husband to do like 2 or 3 things at the same time. And he said, "Can you please slow down? I can't catch up." And the moment he said it, I just said to him, "You are asking your wife not to be a woman." Right? And he didn't understand what I said. So what do you mean? I said, she has been blessed with an ability to multitask. Genevieve is here listening to me, thinking about the next question she's going to ask me, watching the participant group and wondering who is there that is unmuting their mic and shutting them up immediately. She is maybe looking at other people in her WhatsApp. She might have several things on her screen right now that she's dealing with. That is how her brain can function. Me, the only app open on my laptop now is Zoom. I can't do anything else. Now, this is natural. I've not added anything in terms of skills, qualification, capacity, experience. I've not put anything on that layer. All I'm saying is just being. Just being. But we have allowed fear to seep into our hearts. And then we allow that to to relegate our ability to be greater. No, I'm not use the word greater. To be the greatness that we are. So the greatness that you are already can only be manifested if you allow fear to get out of the door. So fear needs to get out. So recapping, you don't want to rinse and repeat. First off, rather, you don't, when you say thank you, you're like, nah, we thank God. Or nah, it's not, well, it was okay. Well, it was not Misha. Number two, you do not believe in your capacity to rinse and repeat. Okay. And number three, what's the third one? Let's see if anybody's listening. So let's look at what's the third one?
Yes, let's see in the chat. What's the third one, guys?
Yeah, I'm in the chat.
Okay. Wait.
So everybody just give me the 3 points. We raised 3 points. So I'm a teacher, okay? Forgive me. So there were 3 points, all right? So what were the 3 points we discussed now?
Wait, why are they sending it directly to me?
Okay, pure fear. Yeah, because the chat has one group and there's one other one that is for the Blossom Ladies Network, which is the host. So everybody send your response to the meeting group chat. All right. Mary, thank you very much. So Mary put in there pure fear. Thank you very much, Colette. Thank you. Okay, Genevieve.
Wow. You just basically read most of our lives. That is amazing. 3 of these things now, but you can't now leave us hanging. What are some of the strategies? How have you been able to overcome? You said preparation. What else? What more can we do? Because it's very particular, especially for ladies, that thing, socialization, society. And then when you do, they say, oh, you're doing too much. And then you shrink even further.
Yeah.
What are some of the strategies? How can we start to take a stab at it, as we say?
I think strategy is a sweet spot, and let's not go into strategy first. Let's look at the Bible and see, is it possible that there's someone in the Bible who had imposter syndrome? And I'm going to show you one of the meekest men on earth, one of the men who typifies being meek, one of the men who typifies the humility that you think is, one of the men who is the greatest prophet to ever live, one of the men who was slow to anger but also quick to anger, one of the men who God used to take the Israelites out of Egypt, who were over 400 years in bondage, and he took them out. That man is Moses. And so when God came to Moses, all right, I have my Bible here. I hope that's fine, Genevieve.
Absolutely.
Right. So when God met Moses, right, he made it so dramatic. Each time I look at that scripture in Exodus 3 rather, I'm very curious. Why did God have to make it very dramatic? Why did he have to make such a dramatic entrance into Moses's life? Why did he have to appear in a burning bush? And so Moses was there tending the flocks, the sheep, on the mountain, doing what he knows how to do best. He had run out of Egypt, run into to meet his father-in-law, was tending those sheep, and then boom, he sees a burning bush, and he's like, "Yo, what is this? Why is this burning?" He was very curious, right, about what he saw. And then he approached, and the moment he was getting close, immediately the Lord told him, "Oh, you have to remove your shoes because what you're stepping on is holy ground." Now, one of the things is, excuse me. One of the things is, you see, Genevieve, that point where God told him to remove his shoes because it was holy ground, I think that was the point where he lost his footing, because he went there with such boldness. He went there with curiosity. He went there trying to think, what exactly is this? Okay, is this something I can explore? Is it something I can leverage on? And then he got there and the Lord told him, remove your shoes because where you're stepping on is holy ground. Now, the moment a question comes into our lives, sometimes we doubt ourselves. We do not see that questioning as a chance to check. We do not see that questioning as a chance to see, do I have the capacity to deliver on this? When Genevieve said to me she wants to raise this network, for instance, I chose several questions at her immediately, and she couldn't answer all the questions. Like, okay, the Lord said I should do it. It's the Lord that said it. The Lord said. So we just go and say, you're just gonna get in there, you're gonna fail. Because these are questions. I was listening to a message, a TV screen, interview for Reverend Samoye recently, and the interviewer asked Reverend Samoye a very important question. He said to him, how did you start the prophetic prayer conference? And there was a problem, and his wife was there, and the wife said, oh, I think you should think of using this. And he said he didn't even know what to do. He didn't know how to do it. He just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? No lights, no cameras, just his phone. And he started something that's become huge and big. The point is, there was a questioning. Now, do not allow the questions that come your way to deter you from approaching the burning bush. Don't. Because look, when you want to go, for instance, you want to go into tech, and you're saying people are in tech, they're earning more money, and you want to eventuate to it, and suddenly somebody asks you one question, or do you know how to be a product engineer? Like, you know what? Hasta la vista, baby. Let me stick to admin, right? Right? You just said, no, I don't think I can go there. I don't think I should do it. Right? This is what is stopping you from approaching your burning bush. So when you hear that question, the first thing you need to do is to keep on going. Now, he got there. He got to the burning bush. He approached it. And interestingly, what God did was to first give him a lecture. Fantastic lecture. I'm not going to bore you with everything that he has said, but I'm going to take you to verse 11, 3 verse 11, which is the first thing. Can you see what that verse led with? Genevieve, do you have your Bible with you?
Absolutely.
What are you using? I'm sure you're using King James.
New King James Version. What do you want me to read?
I need to be King something, Sha.
I can go anyway. NLT?
No. King James good. I'm using NLT.
3:11, right?
So yeah, just give me the first three words there.
But Moses.
That's all. It's okay. Thank you. But imagine starting with, just imagine, it starts with but, doubts, self-doubt. And look, as women, one of the things we need to debunk is self-doubt. So when we're talking about strategies, I hope you understand I'm dropping the strategies already. And so you need to be picking them up, okay? You need to be picking them up as we speak. And I'm going to ask questions at the end of the day. So you have to put it in the chat group. If not, when they invite me again, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to show up if you don't put it in the chat group. I need to be sure that you're following. So the first thing is, when you get asked questions, it doesn't deter you from approaching. Number one. Number two, don't lead your conversations with a but. Don't lead it with self-doubts. You need to have a can-do spirit and say to yourself, I can do it. I can. Listen, in the year 2020, yep, that's the year. Is that the year of COVID?
Yes, that was COVID, yes.
Fantastic. The year of COVID. The year of COVID, 2020. In January, a lot of friends of mine, I was in Abuja at the time, a lot of my friends were sending me a link to a job. Now, this job was with the UK government, and the job was a high-profile job, and the job was paying a salary that was times 4 of my current salary at the time, times 4. And so when they were sending me this job application, like, why are people sending this into me? I'm going to speak Yoruba a little bit so that those who are Yorubas, you understand what I'm saying. So it means that, do you want me to embarrass myself? Because when somebody is progressing in life, progress, systemically, progress small, when you move from grade 1, go to grade 2, then go to grade 3, right? What is this jumping of? No jumping, move progressively. And so I got it from somebody and I ignored it. I ignored the message. Another person sends it to me. I ignored it. I ignored the message. A third person sends it to me. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I got to check it out. Let me just check this thing out, because why are people sending this thing to me? And so I check out the job and I'm like, these qualifications they're asking for is big. I don't know how I'm going to deliver on this thing. I don't know how am I going to do this job? Now listen to me, friends and family. Everything that was in job description were things I was doing. But the English they used to pad it up. Pastor G, look, the English, and it's people like you, PG, that they used to send to go and do all these things. It's people like you with plenty English. The way they padded the job description, I was like, let's break this thing down. So they mean I need to be able to design programs for the digital economy. That is it, Abby. I used to do that one now. They mean I need to understand budget, but the way they wrote it was so hard. I sent in my application. I got the job. Now, listen, like each time I think about this story, I say to myself, how about if I never applied for it?
Yeah.
How about if I just never applied for it? The interesting thing is that, and I'm going to say this very, very carefully, and I want you to hear it. And in fact, I want you to write it down in your notepads or whatever you're using to write notes. People see your greatness more than you yourself. People see your greatness more than you yourself. Sometimes you're short-sighted. You can't see how great you are. You can't see the glory around you. You can't see it. This self-doubt has so consumed you. Look, Moses approached the burning bush because God permitted him to approach it. God permitted him to see it. Do not think that Moses was the only one on the mountain feeding his sheep at the time. There were several other people who were feeding that sheep at that time. But when God permitted him to see it, because he knew he had qualified him. But we don't qualify ourselves. We just say, I can't. And then you don't send in applications. You don't do that. Look, listen, I'm currently designing a program in Africa, right? And that program is going to give each participant it's in Naira. I think I just talked Naira figure. So it's 10 million Naira per person who gets into the program, 10 million Naira per person, and it's free. It's a grant. It's an acceleration program. Okay. And for 10 people, so that's 100 million, right? Yeah. 100 million Naira.
Yeah,
right? Free money. Do you know what? The application is out and done. We had over 1,000 applications in. I kid you not, we don't have up to 50 applications from women.
Oh no.
And
oh no.
As we're doing the review, we are making a deliberate effort to select female entrepreneurs. Deliberate. And I've been and thankfully, right, because I'm so passionate about supporting female entrepreneurs across the continent, I make sure, like I was speaking to the judges who were working on it, like, I want you to make sure that female participation in the program. That's all. If we don't have female participation in the program, we're going to do a call for application again and make it exclusively for female entrepreneurs. That's what we're going to do. And thankfully, the funders have agreed. So we're good on that. 50. Why? Self-doubt. Oh, will my business idea fly? Oh, can I push it? Can I push the narrative? Oh, female entrepreneurs have it harder in the ecosystem, in the tech ecosystem. We can't compete with them, but you are the best. Find anybody who is leading anything in life. Behind that man is a woman who is stronger, who is more capable, who has tremendous capacity, that if she has no caution, she would so overtake the man that each time I wonder, why did God say to a woman, be the helpmate? Have you sat down to analyze it? Why did God say it? Because he knows. He knows what he put inside her. He knows the makeup. Yeah. Look, ChatGPT is out and they're doing versions. The versions they create is better than the first version. Do you understand it? Like, it's simple mathematics. iPhone 15 Pro Max is coming out soon. Those of us who are fans of Apple, we are waiting for it to come out. Genevieve, I'm not talking to you. But those of us who are fans of Apple, we are waiting for the next version to come out. So whether you like it or not, whether you are a hater or not, whether you're in the community of Samsung like my wife, the reality remains that 15 Pro Max is going to be better than 14 Pro Max. So can you explain to me why a woman is not much better than a man? Like, do you want to help me understand it? And so why do we overcome ourselves with so much self-doubt that we lead a statement with "but"? And so Moses sat there and said, but Moses protested to God. What audacity? What confidence? You need to desist from having confidence in self-doubt. Listen, some of us have spent so much time building the skill of convincing ourselves to remain at the level we are at. We tell ourselves the stories of complacency and we believe it. I'm being too hard. Sorry. Let's move on.
Please, it's needed. I believe it's needed.
Let's move on. Let me be calm on this. Let me be calm on this. But Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people out of Egypt? Huh? It's just, he had condemned himself completely. I cannot do it. I can't start the network. I can't start the Blossom Ladies Network. I can't do. Who am I? How will they come? I'm a teacher. I'm but a school teacher. PG, I hope it's okay to jab you a little bit.
Go on.
I'm but a school teacher. All I know is to teach people communications and PR. That is all I do. What am I? I'm a school teacher. That's all. And he kept on going on. Listen to the next one. God answered, I will be with you. So God gave him a reason why I have chosen you. That's verse 11 and 12. Next verse 13. But Moses protested. No. Wait. What? Do you understand how terrible this is? Moses' encounter with God is a picture of our hearts and our minds. It's a picture of the conversations that happen in our head when we are meant to move to the next level. That's the picture of imposter syndrome speaking. Mm. But Moses protested. If I go to the people and tell them, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? 14, God now answered and told him what he should tell them. I am that I am. God went on and introduced himself all over again. Then chapter 4, verse 1.
Answering maybe the first part of the that you will be a top-notch candidate for them.
Apologies.
Chapter 4, verse 1. What does your Bible say, PG?
Then Moses answered, but suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice.
Did you see how progressive it has been that he has been giving the reasons? Now, are all his reasons bad? Yeah. That is his reality. That was another but. Then God answered him and gave him a reason. Look at verse 10.
So verse 10 says, then Moses said to the Lord, O Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue.
Look at the guy. Just look at this guy. He has finished so many excuses. Later he said, I stammer, I stutter. I cannot talk. God said, wait, you saw the burning bush. You took your staff, I turned it to snake. You put your hand in your pocket, you brought it out, it became leprous. You put it back in, it became like a baby's. I told you that if you take the water in a jar, you pour it down, it will become blood. So is it me that cannot now heal your tongue? Then look at verse 13.
But he said, O Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send.
He just said, you know what? I know everything I'll be talking about is good. I like it. It sounds good.
Send somebody
or you
else.
just send somebody else. Just send somebody else. I cannot do this. And so, look, the reason that happened, then just God had to send him with his elder brother Aaron. So Aaron now became his mouthpiece. So throughout his journey, and Aaron became a problem because at the end of the day, the idol worshippers that happened, the anger, because when he went onto Mount Sinai to commune with God before he came back, Aaron had raised up idols, and they were all worshiping the God that they left behind, and his anger was kindled, and he took the tablets and the commandment and he broke it, and because of that God says, you know what, you're not going to get into the Canaan land, right? The crutch he picked because of doubts became his blocker to getting into Canaan land. Listen to me, friends. Listen, when you want to get past imposter syndrome, one of the things is you need to quench self-doubt completely. And this is a matter of your mind. This is a mindset shift I need you to have in your mind. And just say it to yourself. When you hear yourself doubt and you give yourself the reasons why you are not capable of doing stuff, quench the self-doubt. How do you quench self-doubt? Number one, if you think that you want to do a role and you don't have the capacity for it, can you go learn? Can you? Because it's not rocket science. When we're young, our parents used to say to us, oh, they don't have two heads. What they actually mean is that it is not rocket science. If it can be done by somebody else, it can be done by you. If you have that mindset, then that can-do spirit, you'll be able to respond to every imposter syndrome, number one. Number two is that you have to prepare for yourself a response. And what do I mean? When you get into the chat, when you get into the puddle of imposter syndrome, what happens is that you are having a conversation with yourself that you cannot do it, right? You can't do it. You don't have the capacity for it. What you need to do is that once that happens, you need to prepare for yourself a response for it. You need to prepare for yourself a response for it. Okay. And number three, you just need to do it and take the risk. Okay. And don't be risk averse. All right. One of the reasons why some of us are imposters is because we're perfectionists. All right. We want things to be done perfectly, right? I've battled the imposter syndrome for so long, and one of the reasons is because I like things so perfect. Oh my goodness, to the T. I'm going to review everything. My wife says to me that the people who work with me, that she can't work with me because I drew her too hard, because I want things done perfectly. We can be planning a vacation, and I would have planned it so much that I've taken away the joy of the vacation itself. It's bad. It's terrible. Like my wife is, let's just, as we're going, we are fine, we are okay, we'll be okay. Me, I've chatted the fact that France is fighting with somebody and something can happen in Paris at this time. I've always thought about everything, right? It's not good, right? But the thing is that you need to go with the flow sometimes. And if you fail, you fail. It's good, right? And if you pass, you pass. You're fine. But just do it.
Yeah.
PG.
See, this is where you don't even want it to end. And I feel like there's some other characters in the Bible, but I particularly love how you highlighted Moses and the excuses No, this is very instrumental. Okay, let's see if there's some questions in the chat before I ask mine. Please put your questions in the chat. It's an amazing, I think I saw a few questions. Okay, there's a question here. Does talking to someone help? Mentorship, coaching, guidance, does it help? And how to overcome the fear of imposter syndrome. So please put some more questions in the chat. Let's see if we can take some questions, and I would then ask my final question. So where do you place mentorship? Is it effective? Seeking advice, and how will that experience help somebody?
Good question. I have a weekly newsletter, and I sent something out 2 days ago. I send it out every Sunday, 6 p.m. And give me a second. I need to check. And check what I called this one. Yeah, pull over and ask for direction. That was the title of this one. Pull over and ask for direction. I don't know why, but what I've seen with all the women I've dated in my life, and that's just one woman, they like to experience things themselves. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's very funny. You know, they like to experience things themselves.
Yeah.
Front is do let it scatter. Then they'll say, "Oh, wow. I didn't know that's gonna happen."
I try not to laugh too hard.
I didn't know that was gonna happen.
I try not to laugh too hard.
I know this is hard for me, right? Because I'm a teacher, leadership coach. I I have some experience. I'm not so old, but I have some experience. Do you know how hard it is to not coach my wife and just be a husband? And that means just keeping quiet and just watching her do nonsense sometimes. And just keeping quiet straight. Because you know that at the end of the day, you know where it's going to, right? And you just have to wait and see it. Because I realize it's a characteristics that women have to deal with. And that is seen through things themselves. And interestingly, you have better friends. You have better friendships than we do, right? You have friends that you hold from your from school,
Childhood, yeah.
childhood, and you hold on to this friendship. For we men, we just freestyle as we go, right? And we just freestyle as we just bounce around. If it works out, it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, we just cut the person off and move on. You know. So why don't you ask good questions? What do you do when you speak gisting? What are you talking about? Why don't you seek counsel? Why don't you seek counsel? And there's a conundrum here because women are the ones who learn the most. Women are the ones who form communities more easily, right? When I used to run the Storytel Academy, I put a pause on that now because I'm focused on my life here in the UK at the moment. If I send out a call for students for any course whatsoever, if I have 10 participants in that course, 8 of them will be women, 2 will be men. Men don't have time for those things. They just I just feel they just hustle their way through certain things. But women are very studious. They want to learn. Spend more time asking questions and having real mentorship. Don't tumble through life. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. People who have done it, seen it, done that, ask the hard questions. Ask the tough questions. Ask the tough questions. And use those questions and the responses you get to make decisions for your life. The more you do it, the less you stumble. The more you do it, then the more accelerated your journey will be. There is no reason why you shouldn't ask questions. Now, listen, when I say this, I do not mean you should come into Genevieve's DM and ask 1,111 questions. I have many mentors, but less than 0.5% of them do I talk to. I believe in mentorship from afar off. And this is why mentorship comes easy. Podcast, books. If I fall in love with an author, I'm going to literally buy all the author's books and follow the author wherever the person is and just glean and learn. You can do that and emulate it more and see that mentorship will help you. So for your imposter syndrome, what I would say is why I said mentorship is fine. Mentorship is fine, but even more, friendship is more important. Here's why. When you see that job application, if you share with your friend and your friend believes in you, oh, great friend. But your friend says you cannot, I don't think you should do it. You can't do it. Then maybe that's not your friend at the time. Right? PG, when you shared with me the Blossom Network and you told me what you wanted to do, I told you what I thought. I think I was hard. And I always say to you that, am I too tough? Is my feedback too hard? Should I hold up a little bit? The reason why I give it to you tough is because I know you have capacity, a stronger man. Right? If it's somebody else, I'll just be calm and just sweet talk a little bit, and just pass the message as easily as I can. But the truth is that you need friends who do believe in you. And try to find friends who when you're building your network of friends, now you don't need a lot. You just need a few people, right? Who do believe or who are walking the talk. And I pick those words very deliberately. Walking the talk. So it means they are doing they are where you want to be, or they're doing stuff that they say or they preach. Once you see that and you see those qualities, then you can be with them. That would help you to motivate you, to inspire you. And so my friends, for instance, there's a certain level of job stuff they send to me. There's a certain amount of money they send. I can't call numbers now on this call, but there's a certain amount of money they can't send to me, or there's certain kind of jobs they cannot send to me because I won't even look at it, right? But there's certain things they will send to me like, yeah, I'm going to go for that. Lamide, I think you can do it. Why? Because we have so rubbed off on each other that we're at a certain level. And that's what you need to do. So once you do that, it will help your imposter syndrome. I was going for an interview once, and what I do is my slides, I always share with my wife before I go present it to whoever it is I'm presenting it to. And I'll work on it, and she'll give me time. She'll come, she'll give me water. If I'm lucky, she'll make a good meal. But she has never stayed with me through the process of creating any of my deck for whatever reason. But once I'm done, I send it to her, and then she'll send me a long message on how beautiful it is, and it's the best deck she has ever seen, and it is better than the last one I sent before. And guess what? When I go into that interview, I'm just thinking of the fact that the most important person in my life has said, my deck is the best in the world. Just having that confidence boosts my morale in any interview I go for. And it has been consistent. So what do? I rinse and repeat. Genevieve.
And that's amazing. That is amazing. Big up for me. And maybe before you go, you release it. Well, this one you've talked so much about marriage. But yes, we would.
Jesus Christ.
It's not today. No, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I particularly love the community of friends, the network, and the mentoring. I said when we talk about how this came, and that was the idea when the Lord dropped this, like for people to actually come and be inspired. I'll just go through the chat to see if there's any more questions, because I don't want to okay, I'm not seeing the full question. Can it be handled with mentorship?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Now listen, I'm connected to somebody who is a big guy, right, in Nigeria. Big guy, like top big guy. He, interestingly, a friend of mine didn't know that I was connected to him, or that I am connected to him. So one day, this friend of mine is a very close friend of mine, very close. But I never talk about the people I'm connected to. So this friend of mine sends me a post on Instagram and spoke about how inspired he is about the posts, blah, 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 blah. And for the first time, just said, oh, that's beautiful. Actually, I managed everything that has to do with this person's brand. Like, what? Since when? I'm like, oh, it's for about a year now. Oh my God, he never mentioned. I like to be close to him too. Like, okay, sure. It's gonna happen. So an introduction happened, and this friend of mine got connected and everything. And last time I was in Nigeria, I visited this mentor of mine, and I spoke about this friend of mine to this mentor of mine. Like, oh, cool guy. I like him too. Fantastic. He has my number. He can reach out anytime. A few weeks ago, This friend of mine calls me and says, I've been trying to reach this mentor of yours. He doesn't respond to me. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. And he just went on and on. What do you do? And he asked the most important question. How do you get his attention? And when he said it, it was over a call. I'm like, you know what? Let me call you back. And I ended the call. And I legit went to my chat with this mentor of mine. I realized that the last time I spoke to him was when I was in Nigeria.
Oh.
And that was like 4 months ago. And every message I've sent to him, he had not responded. But I never cared. I just move on with my life. But this friend of mine is so burdened about it. Like, he doesn't respond. La, 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 la. So I reached out to this friend of mine and said, I'm not sure why he's not responding to you, but he also isn't responding to me. So just give him time. Like, oh, but this is so much time. I need to make certain decisions and I need him to guide me. Yada, 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 yada. So obviously to say that this mentor of mine is now in my DM like almost every day now because I'm designing something for him and he needs it to be on the roof ASAP. Now, and that's because I'm great with designing. He's having communications with me to make that happen. So it's value that this mentor of mine wants from me. And this friend of mine doesn't have value yet. So what he wants is to collect. So if you're working with Pastor Genevieve and you say Pastor Genevieve is my mentor, it means that you should have been the one to design. Should I go on, Pastor Genevieve?
Go on. Like I'm now curious. Like my ears are like things.
Okay. You should have been the one to design the content for the flyer on imposter syndrome. You should have been the one to communicate with the designer, if there was any, in designing the flyers. You should have been the one who would create a cadence for all the communications that will happen on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on WhatsApp status, and develop a spreadsheet with all the content and the captions, pictures and captions for this entire event so that we can hit a minimum of 50 people on the call and not 23 people on the call. You should have been the one to design a newsletter and send that newsletter out and support Genevieve because she's extremely busy with ministerial work and her academic work that this to her is such a passion, but she's one person. You should have taken that burden off her. It means you should have designed an outline for today's session and ensure that she's not the one who starts the session. She's not the one who has the communication with me with the Q&A, and she's the same person who's going to be looking at the questions and saying, what are your questions? Follow me. And she's the one that's going to end the session. It means you are no value to Genevieve. So why would she listen to you? Should I go on?
I think I'm actually, because we didn't have this conversation. Like this is really helpful, honestly.
Yeah, because it starts from here. If you can't help these people here, how will you help the people who are making multi-million naira? How would you get to the people whose books you can only read and you cannot touch the hem of their garments? How will you get there? How will you get to the rooms where you can sit with kings and dine with them if you can't help those who are the closest to you? If you can't, I say it always when I have an opportunity to speak. How you do one thing is how you do everything. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you don't have the heart of service, mentorship is not for you. Because you go there, you want stuff, you demand stuff. And anytime there's going to be a conversation, it's because you want something from that individual, then you won't have access to hear, to listen. So this mentor of mine, I've only asked him 3 questions. And those questions, they currently shape my life now. Currently, 3. And I can't forget those conversations because they were weighty. But he has my service. He has my heart. So if you want mentorship and you want to combat imposter syndrome, through mentorship. You need to serve. So before this session, I called Pastor Genevieve out of the blues. I just called her. PG, you picked. Why?
Because I don't know. I just picked because it's you.
Why? That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I want to hear is you. Why?
We've done so much together. You've added so much value. Like, this is, if they listen to the introduction, Lamide is my friend. Like, I don't know, like, it's you, it's you. This is something you can call and you can, I can bounce ideas off and the person gets me, and there's so much value. Like I talked about this one and APSN, we've got things off the ground, lots of, even last year, there were so many things we've done together. There's been a symbiotic relationship and, connection. So yes, this person has my heart. So there's no how, like, you call me, I'll pick up the phone immediately.
Thanks, PG, for that. If you want mentorship to help you to combat imposter syndrome, it means the mentor. It means you have to have the heart of the mentor. And the way to someone's heart is through service. Forget the love languages. This is not love language. And maybe I should write a book about it. Yeah. I should write a book about mentorship, service as the love language, as the only love language for mentorship.
Inspired by the Blossom Ladies Network. Give us
It'll
royalties, please.
There'll be a story in there. There'll be a story in there.
Yes.
There'll be a story in there, right? And this relationship with myself and Pastor Genevieve is less than 2 years. It pretty much happened when I got into the UK, and so much has happened within that period. Yet the relationship is healthy, and the relationship is symbiotic. So mentorship can really be an access for it. If I want to start a business today, if I called Pastor Genevieve and I say to her, yo, I want to start this business together, she's going to say, yes, you can do it. Listen, last year I was writing a paper and I was late on writing that paper and I was blank. PG, why are you laughing? I was blank on writing that paper, and Pastor Genevieve, at the time, right, I didn't understand that being an academic, it means you are only focused on one type of academia, right? So if she's a comms and a PR specialist, that's all she knows how to do. Then I was going to PG to complain to her about a course I was doing in business, right? And all the tools that we use and everything we do there. PG doesn't tell me she has no clue what I'm talking about. What she does is, you know what's going to happen? How many hours do you need to work on this? I tell her, and she says, okay, would it be valuable if I sit with you on a call and we walk through everything you're doing? And I'm like, I've never heard this before, but yes. PG is Pastor Genevieve. Good question, Colette. And she says, okay, great. Lock down my calendar. Sorry, like I could literally go into my calendar and just type Genevieve, and the calendar where she blocked will be there last year. And she will sit down with me and we started from the outline. And she'll say, okay, that outline looks good. Does it meet the requirements? Like, yeah, get the introduction done. Boom. Where did you get the reference? There. Okay, great. Next one. I didn't realize she was just being a referee. She had no clue what I was writing about. She had no clue. But she just wanted to help. She just wanted to be there and say, get this out. Sorry to say, I got it done. I got it out. I sent the final brief to her. She read it, thought it was okay, submitted it, and got an A in the course. How can that happen? Like, the extent of the value she gave me on that stays with me, right? Even as someone who is way, 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 way younger than PG, and somebody who is not as big as she is. But that stays with me. Why are you opening your eyes? I'm going to bite you. That stays with me, and I don't let it go, right? So if I can call on her, now listen, I was going through my bout of imposter. I had written almost 8 or 9 papers before then. But for that paper, I thought I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I needed help. So I could reach out to my mentor to help me through it. Genevieve.
Like, wow, that is powerful. That is powerful. Even as I was even part of it, that is powerful. And that speaks a lot about the value. Let me pick one more question. How do you recognize the value within yourself that you can eventually share? Because if you don't recognize the value, you can't provide. How can you make the most of mentorship? That's a good question.
I mean, that's a very good question. How can you find value within yourself? Sometimes, and this is something I learned, I learned accidentally. Was it accidental? It was not accidental, it was forced. I studied fisheries and wildlife in university. Fisheries, fish. Do you know what it means to study fisheries and wildlife in the university and go to a university for 5 years and sit down and learn Clara's Garipinus or your Chromis Nanauticus or study monkeys and elephants and sheep and botanical names and zoological names? Like, it's incredibly boring. And I was so frustrated that, in fact, it got worse when I went for my IT, and I was at the IT, and when I were done after 3 months, I was given 2 crates of eggs as my salary for going to the office 3 times in a week. 2 crates of eggs. Eggs were about 240 at that time. That's 480. Divide 480 by the number of days I had to go to work. So that was my earning capacity in 2009. Right. You know what that means? Do you know what that means? Do you know what it means to? Do you know what it mean? Right. Listen, it's also bad that when I say I've gone through imposter syndrome myself, I didn't want to talk about my story today because I wanted to share the story from the Bible that you can all relate to, and you can go yourself and study the book of Exodus and learn from Moses, because some of you might not have access to me after now, right? This is the only time I'm going to speak. And if you send me a message on Instagram, I may or may not respond. I may or may not see it. And I don't want to feel anyhow, right? Because I know you have questions, and I'm hoping you ask your questions now. When I got posted by the NYC, I was posted to the Society for Family Health, and I got into the Society for Family Health. At the time, Boko Haram was bombing places, so there was tightening security. I got into the building. I saw all their white cars, their Jeep, their Prados. It was fantastic. I got to get into the building itself. We had to use our thumbprint and do lots of scanning and stuff. I got into the building and I saw flat screen what do you call it? Flat screen, computers. Everybody was dressed in suits. They were looking so clean and fly. There were split unit ACs. Everything was working. And the lady saw me and she asked me what I studied in school. I told her, so like, you came highly recommended. Very few people get posted to Society for Family Health. We pay 40,000 naira here per month. I was like, oh my God, this was 2011. This is what everybody wants, right? This is what everybody wants. And guess what? I said, please, can you write me a rejection letter? Yes, PG. I know I've not told you this before. I said, can you write me a rejection letter? And the lady looked at me, she's HR, and she said, I've never heard this before since I started working in this organization. People want to be here. People want to be here. Ministers write to us to have people posted here. For you to be posted here, it means you know somebody up there. And you want me to write you a rejection letter? I said, yes, please. And she said, why? Can you believe what I said?
What did you say?
I can't work here.
Oh.
I couldn't see myself working there. Wow. You know why? Because I earned 2 crates of eggs a year ago. I worked in a farm a year ago. All they taught me in school was how to mix fish feed. Nobody taught me how to work corporate. Nobody taught me how to work. What? Everything I knew about the computer, I learned it myself. So I was scared I was going to mess up. I took the rejection letter with boldness and I left the building. And guess what I started looking for? I started looking for a farm in Abuja. Because that was where my mind was sending me to. My wife always asks me, why do you always want to buy small cars? Why do you always want to buy one door? Why do you like tiny cars where you have to enter and fit into? What is it with you and your relationship with SUVs? You are big. Can't you buy big things? I'm like, no, I like it small. No, it's not the truth. The truth is that My first car was a tiny small car, and I just feel like I managed this tiny small car. That's what it is. The truth is that you will always want to stay in a one bed or a single room. That's where your mind is taking you through, and you tilt towards it. You don't know you're doing it, but you are either ways. It's imposter. So I left the Society for Family Health and I started looking for a farm to accept me to work. Imposter syndrome. So how do you recognize your value? How do you recognize your value? Thankfully, the Holy Spirit is a good person, you know. When you mess up, he finds a way to fix you up. Yeah. And I don't know, it's just grace, right? That makes that happen. And he led me to a university. I got to the university, asked for HR, got in there, and the person said, "What did you study?" And I told him fishes and wildlife, and they all laughed. Somebody like Genevieve was sitting down there laughing, like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You studied that in the university?" And I felt that was a very sarcastic question. So I responded to her with anger, like, "Yeah, for 5 years, ma." And she said, "Oh, so don't be offended. I'm just wondering, like, what would you be studying in school, right? Like, what are you going to be doing?" And I started explaining with such passion. I was 22 years old, but I was so passionate. And the man says, "You know, we're not trying to make you feel terrible, but we know it's Nigeria, and Nigeria happens to everybody. But the truth is that we don't need your competency. Like, can you look around? Do I have fish ponds?" I said, "No." Say, "Do we have lions?" I said, "No." And the man says something very important, which is Femi's question. She said, "What can you offer me?" And I'm like, yo, I have never thought about that in my life. What can you offer me? I have never thought about that question before. But thank God for the Holy Spirit in man that whispers responses. The Bible says you have unction from the Holy One and you know all things. All things. You got answers for every question. And I said, "Oh, I can do 2 things." And he says, "What are they?" I said, "I can speak and I can write." Guess what? I was drama coordinator for RCF, Redeemed Campus Fellowship in school. It meant I had to write scripts. It meant I had to speak. That was it. That was what came to my mind. I could speak and I could write. And you know what he said to me? He said, "Oh, we have the head of HR who really needs a copper who is very good writing. So can you do presentation slides?" I had never done it before, but I said yes. "Do you know how to write memos?" Yes. "Do you know how to write concept notes and proposals?" Yes. "Okay, you can have a chat with her and let's see." Thankfully, I had a chat with her. She fell in love with me at first sight, and that was it. I became her greatest support for 4 years, and I kissed agriculture goodbye. What I'm trying to emphasize here, Femi, is this. Sometimes we think the value is something grandeur. Nah. All I had to support that woman to do was speak and write in my entire time with her. Then I learned other things that was additional value. Look within you and figure out what are the things you do very easily. What are the things that come naturally to you? Pastor Genevieve is great with administration, with organizing. She knows how to diffuse complexities and make it simple and set up the processes in place that it will be very seamless. How she does it, no idea. But she does it either ways. So if you ever take her somewhere and tell her to just sit down and watch things happen without having to be involved in the organization, you're going to kill her. Because she's going to be like, "Why is that person spending so much time talking? No, let's have that done. Oh, this should have happened this way. That should have happened this way." It comes naturally. Femi, figure out what's natural to you and offer that value.
Wow, this is amazing. And no, we are going to definitely have a part 2 because I want to, and I like Colette's question, could it be a spiritual attack? If yes, how do you handle it based on the word? Also getting ready for the task you're afraid to handle. I think there's also a spiritual dimension, which he has also mentioned. Now, we pair things not just spiritually. That's the problem. Don't just take the spiritual. This is also the strategic. And that's what we strive to do on the Blossom Ladies Network, where the Lord gives us the spiritual dimension and also what you can do on earth, like, you know, with strategies like he just talked about, talking to people. So you combat it with the word, you know, pray, speak the word over it, you know, and then you also actively go and speak to people, listen to tapes. So there is the balance with the spiritual and the strategic. So I'll be hesitant. Could it be a spiritual attack? I know there might be a spiritual dimension to it that, you know, we can deal with. You can speak to pastors for counseling regarding that. There could be a spiritual dimension. I want us to just pray, because I have taken a whole hour. We had planned for 45 minutes, but it was just amazing. I didn't want to stop the flow. So I would ask him to say a word of prayer for anyone in that space that is struggling with imposter syndrome, fear, insecurity, unwarranted sense of insecurity, feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you don't deserve the place. I'd want him to say a prayer. And this is because I've known him and I know that there is grace. So I encourage you, and we'll put this up for you to go back to listen to and to learn. And of course, if you're joining us, please follow us on Instagram. We'll share some more resources as we go on, some other books that would help you combat this at whatever season of your life that you are in. So, Pastor Lamide. He hates when I say it, but I say it nonetheless. Would you like to pray for us, please?
Can you permit me to share my screen?
Absolutely.
So when you said I should pray, I'm not a pastor. I can't share my screen, PG.
Wait, 1 second. Let's just do it now. Should we make co-host? You should do now. Is it working?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so when you said I should pray, I'm not a pastor. So there was just, you know, a picture that came to my spirit, and this is what the picture I saw. I hope you can see my screen. Can you?
Yes,
Can you see my screen?
yeah.
This was the picture I saw. I just saw a lioness roaring, right? Did you hear that? Did he? Can you hear that? Okay, that's all I needed to do, and that's all the Holy Spirit is going to do behind you now. You're no more a cat. You know what a cat does? A cat paws. What your lioness does? She roars. She roars. So you're leaving the season where your voice is not heard. You're leaving a season. In fact, thank you, Holy Spirit. You're leaving a season of timidity. You're living a season of second guessing yourself. A lioness doesn't second guess herself. She knows that when she's hungry, she's going to get that food. There's nothing you can do. She's going to get that food. She's going to eat. There is nothing that questions her place in the jungle. Nothing questions her place in the jungle. That's who you are. And you're even much more. You're much, oh goodness. Like you've got the lion of the tribe of Judah behind you. Like there is nothing you can't conquer. You have it before you ask. It is if you want it that it comes. You have that capacity on the inside of you. And the more you embrace it, the more it is. And there is no stopping you. There is no stopping you. And to test this, the places where you've gone to before and you've experienced defeat, go again. Go again. And if you experience defeat, go again. And if you experience defeat, go again. And you continue to go. Ladies, you always want us to ask you out 1,800 times before you say yes. I don't know why people do that to us. Why? So if you can do it to us, do it to the goals you got. Go again and again, like a lioness. Roar. Thank you very much, PJ.
Amen. Amen. Can we say thank you to Lamide Johnson? What an amazing,
Thank you so
powerful
much.
time. Thank you. And see, that's it. No prayer. That's all. Go ahead. Go raw. Please do join us. We'll have some more things coming up in the month of September. And I believe that God is positioning women at this time to do wonders. This is not the time for you to sit back and to recoil in your shell. So we have a few more things coming all through the year to build you, to make you blossom. And this is a community for things: your spirit, your finances, your career, and your profession. Follow us on Instagram. God bless you. We love you. Thank you for your time. Have a good night. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.